Alright. I'm going to re-show this part of the video and let you all see what I did over again. And I'm going to continue on working on this so that we can get this done. And then that way we can go on with it.
Not a bad place to hang out for a little bit, I think. Definitely a place to get rocks thrown at you the odd time, I'd imagine. I'm at the foot of Mount Arrowsmith, and I've never been here before. Sarah's brother's over, and together they want to put a bathroom in the downstairs of the house. So, I'm out of the face, they can have at it. So, I'm going to see if I can find her that one more deer, but it's pretty tough. With black-tailed deer, from what I've learned through my lifetime, you have to learn an area, and it takes a long time. You got to learn it all. Learn what the trails are, if there's deer there, which way they go, what time of year they're there, where they bed, where they feed. And then you put the puzzle together, never quit, and then you eventually start tagging, cutting tags. So I'm like fresh out of the womb here. Wow. And the amount of deer here is tragic. The whole Vancouver Island's tragic, and the reason being was I'm not against logging. I'm against irresponsible logging practices. What they did here on the island, they started to shave it off, and when they first punched in the road, started making clear cuts, that blew up the predator population. So they shaved off the timber, the big mature timber, and they created a shit pile of predators, and the predators overpopulated rapidly, cleaned off the majority of the ungulates, and the big mature timber didn't really come back yet, and that's what feeds them big time. Big trees, big bucks, I always say. So it's kind of sad. The deer have never really recovered. There's a few here and there. The majority of them are in towns, right? But there's still a handful running around. I just might have to go back over to the mainland in my home turf. See if I can go grab one there, maybe. So anyway, I had to grab Sarah's rifle. So I went to grab my 243 and I totally forgot I donated my scope off of that rifle to put on her new rifle. 7mm 08. With her pink sling. Now, who do we got? Let's see here today. I think I'm going to hang out here for a bit. Then I'm going to pull the binoculars and scan across this mountain up in the snow and see if I can see any game trails. Whatever, it's still good to be out, right? I'd rather be out here than anywhere else. Meaning out in the real world, out in the woods. Now, what do we got? A friend of mine sent me, I don't know why he even bothered, but he sent me a Leg Some channel. I guess, I don't know. I mean, there's all sorts of people with channels, right? There's people that really want to have a following. There's people that want to be a YouTuber. There's people that want to be a celebrity. There's people that want. And then they volunteer themselves up to go into conflict with somebody else who has what they want. It's kind of creepy to witness. I don't look at shit. I just don't. But he showed me a volley of comments. Somebody using my image and my name to possibly help promote their channel in some weird way. I don't know what that does, but the amount of hate, there's some haters out there. Holy cow. There's some people out there that really hate me. I feel bad for them. I can't imagine losing that kind of energy in a lifetime. Having tunnel vision on some stranger you don't know because he went on a YouTube channel and maybe I handed their ass one time on the channel publicly. I don't know, who knows, but there's some people out there that are a little twisted. And that reminds me of what I want to show you guys on that topic. Maybe some people here have that going on somewhere in life. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But I was listening to a podcast on the way home. Is that Paul David PBD? Is that it? David podcast? Pretty sharp individuals on that podcast. They're really very sharp individuals. And one guy was pointing out, and it's an easy example to show you guys because you know who they are and you probably know the backstory clearly. When years back, Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump were going at each other's throats, and she stayed focused on hating him for a handful of years. And it's sad to watch, right? But what they did was they posted up these two photos of her, then showed her from then compared to now. And she's had nonstop posting content, or, you know, videos, I guess, absolutely raging against Donald Trump for all these years. I think it ruined her career. But they showed how she's aged. And it really takes you back. It's like, wow, it doesn't matter how you feel about her or Trump or anybody. The point I'm trying to get across is, if you let hate take up your time, if you truly let hate engulf your spirit, it's not good. You don't age very well. You're not very healthy. It causes cancer, man. Take a look at what poor Rosie's done to herself. I mean, I don't give a shit what anybody says. You do not look like that in that short of a time from being happy and doing what you love to do all the time and letting the hate go. Don't you think? Wow. So, try not to hate. Try not to hate. I'm not. Am I guilty of hate? I don't know if I'm guilty of hate. I'm guilty of being upset and want to protect and get even. I've definitely been guilty of getting even all my life. I've definitely, but I've never been one to go after somebody unprovoked. You know what I mean? I've never gone after innocent people because they've got something I want or I'm jealous. I've gone after the bullies. I've gone after the monsters, and I'm proud to say it. I look back, I wouldn't change a thing, but I don't believe I've had absolute hate in me daily, you know? Sad thing to witness. Now, what do we got? Let's listen to this. Bunch of photos in this one. I hope I remember to put on the video. Hi, how are you today, Steve? As I promised, here is my other encounter I had with an 8 to 9 foot silver bipedal beast. I was 15 years old and I lived on a reserve just outside of Karamias, on a reserve called Lower Similkameen, aka Chopaka. I was dating a beautiful native girl. We were so in love, we were always together. We walked the woods always together, everywhere. We were never scared. We never ran into no wild animals except the odd rattlesnake. And now my Indian princess lived about 1 kilometer away from me. I would sneak out of my house about 10 o'clock every night and walk to her place. There was a very well-built trail. I knew this trail so well I could run it at nighttime. I sneaked out every night. And I would sit out her window and do what teens do. Now the encounter. This night was full moon. I snuck out of my house and went to my girlfriend's place just like any other night. I spent at least 4 hours there. I remember looking at the clock in my girl's room and it said 3 a.m. So I gave my princess a kiss and started to walk back. I could see very well through the trees. I know how it is. I know how it is when you walk the bush at night with the full moon. You can see well. I got about 200 yards away and stopped to relieve myself. I took a piss. I got really nervous just thinking about this. I just started to pull my fly up when I heard the bush popping like someone walking through the bush to my right at my 2 o'clock. I bent down right on the trail and waddled behind a small little bush. My heart was racing. I was thinking, fuck, did my girlfriend's dad finally find out I was seeing his daughter in the middle of the night? Yet it was my mom's boyfriend. Yet was it my mom's boyfriend coming out to kick my ass for sneaking out? All this is going through my mind till I can hear the noise getting closer. I could hear whatever or whoever was walking was very heavy. The noise definitely was bipedal, so I ruled out bears or cows or horses. Then as it got closer, I could make out a white or a light gray, tall, bulky shape walking toward me, as like it was going to cut me off on the trail. That's when I pissed myself, because I could see this thing's arms moving, swaying like a walking motion. Then I looked toward the ground and could make out 2 huge legs walking with knees bent. By this time, it's just about I was just about to the trail I was on. Sorry. By this time, it was just about to the trail I was on, about 30 feet from me. At the time, I never knew what I was looking at. It kind of reminded me of a dirty white polar bear standing up. I thought, as I could only make out parts of it, as it walked through the trees. I was totally scared now. All this is happening so fast, I was thinking, should I run? Do I hide? As I still never figured out what I was looking at. And then all of a sudden it stepped out onto the trail. I got my first good look at this thing. The trail was at least 4 feet wide, and the beast's upper body was as wide as the trail. Then it all of a sudden stopped and turned and looked right at me. Then when my stomach started turning and feeling sick, the feeling of being this scared is indescribable. Your body feels effing weird. This beast turned his whole upper body and was looking right at me. It had no neck. Its head was too small for its huge body. Its arms were long, and all this time its legs were bent. I remember seeing its huge hands and fingers moving like it was touching his thumb with his fingers, like it was squishing a ball. The motion. Its face looked more monkey, but it had a huge flat nose. It had a long gray whitish hair. I could not tell the length. His dark eyes were piercing, and his face was like a grumpy old man's. A grumpy old man's look, that's what I got the impression of it. It had a pronounced brow ridge. That's when I knew it was looking right at me. It moved its body forward toward me, as to get a better look at me. That's when I closed my eyes and I began to pray. I had goosebumps all over. I was thinking, what's next? Is it coming for me? Should I run? And then I heard it start to walk, and I opened my eyes, and I caught glimpses of it walking toward the road adjacent to the trail. Then I heard the sound of barbed wire squeaking. And that's when I knew for sure it crossed the road, and I ran back to my girl's house and literally jumped through her window and she said I was sweating like a dog, and had pissed myself. She asked what happened. I could not talk about it right away. I stayed until daybreak and ran home. I told her later that day what I saw, and all she said was, her grandma said the Sasquatch has always been in these woods. Now I never snuck out again. I love your channel. Keep up the good work, Steve. And on the map, my house is in red circle, girlfriend's in blue, the trail is yellow. Purple is where the encounter happened. Green, direction of the Sasquatch. That's scary, dude. And I got the map. I don't need to show it with the world. We don't need to show them where your house is, all right, man? But I got you. Real close to the U.S. border. South Carameus. Huh. Wow. Wow. Appreciate you mailing that in. I'm sorry if it took me a while to get to it. It's just the nature of the beast here. Beings. It's Talos email. I guess I better do my quick little look around. I'm not in grizzly bear territory, but guess what happened yesterday? My neighbor across the road texted me. Very A-type capable guy, Hunter, and he said that a huge bear chased him last night at 9 o'clock right across the road from the house, and he had to jump into his tool trailer and slam the door to avoid getting chewed on. Crazy, right? 1 in a million, right across from my house. You never know. You gotta look around. Hi, Steve. 37 years ago, I was half a mile from Tippy Dam on the west side of Michigan. It was just daylight when I was going for a jog down the power line to Tippy Dam and back. Our cabin was in the woods with a winding driveway. I got to the end of the driveway and was going to stretch when I noticed a furry, dirty, grayish-brown thing laying along a fallen tree about 50 yards from the road. It caught my interest because it was such a contrast from what I normally saw looking in the woods when pulling out of the driveway. I stepped across the road and just started into the woods to check it out when it stood up, and in a blink of an eye, it took off on 2 legs. It was broad, fur-covered, and was probably 6.5 to 7 feet tall. I'll never forget that sight. I ran back to the cabin shaking like a leaf and tried telling my mom and girlfriend what I saw. They laughed and laughed and did not believe a word I said. They thought that I was suffering from delusions, from too much wine the night before. It was a girls' weekend. I was shaking and crying and couldn't believe their reaction. I was born a farm girl with a fishing pole in one hand and a gun in the other, and I knew what I saw. I'll never forget that sight, and I never want to repeat it. No one has ever believed me and think that I'm just chicken shit. Take care, keep keeping it real, Brenda. Brenda, you found your people. It's all good. You get a chance, you might want to send them this video and ask them to watch it. And then they will know that they're not being that smart of human beings. Just minor details, title of this email. Steve, great stories, keep it up. I tried to send a PM via Facebook, not sure you saw that. Nope. In short, when you were in the cabin, it was hitting the wall next to you. I believe it was because it knew you were inside and had seen you through the window. I was wondering how long it was between the smacks and whether or not it was taking the time to see reactions/movements inside the cabin. I hunt about 30 acres in Michigan. There is 100% some crazy shit happening there. 4 to 6 inch diameter trees snapped over a trails we ride quads on. Piled up branches blocking trails that were huge and no way came from anywhere nearby. Residents tell me of crazy loud noises from the woods, repeated stomping that shook their house. Numerous trees that somehow seem to constantly fall across the trails. I've been out by myself and could smell the rancid stink of dead rotting animal and never found the carcass. I'm still skeptical in my mind, but there can only be one answer. Thanks, Jeff. Now, I don't think whatever's beating on that wall, it was completely on the opposite side of the house, the cabin, sorry, where the window was on the other side. There's a window there at the end. There's a window right there across the floor, the door right there, bedroom doorway right there, and the long wall behind me with the couch on it and the wood stove right behind me. And I was getting beat on. I don't know, it sounded like it was at the top of the wall anyway, right above me. So, there you go. That was a freaking scary moment. That was really, really scary. I definitely wasn't going outside. All I had was a .303 British Lee Enfield World War II Army rifle with open sights and a 9-shot magazine that slid into those things, 9 or 10. I think he had 9 and 1 in the pipe, 10. That's all I had. I calmly got up, got out of the bedroom, loaded it, and put it on the couch beside me and sat there. Pitch black outside. What else are you going to do, right? Two experiences. Man, it's cold here. Everything's frosted up. You can't really see it, but it's frozen. I think I'm going to pop one right here. I almost cut this finger off. I ringed it like a corn dog on a stick, it looked like, and I got the nerve cut. We can thump pretty good with the hand warmer on it. Hi, Steve. I enjoy your No BS YouTube channel. I've had a couple of encounters with these beasts I'd like to share with you. First, let me explain. I grew up in the woods hunting and fishing and hiking, etc., and I know what the animals are out there. In other words, I know what a bear is and what is not. I was born and raised in Bellingham, Washington, which is where these two stories took place. And I spent a lot of time fishing in BC in the Caribou. So I'm quite familiar with your area, just as a side note. Anyway, the first encounter took place in a small neighborhood near where I grew up. Granted, it was a long time ago. I was 9 years old at the time, and I'm 57 now, but I remember it like it was last night. My brother and I were staying at a friend's house, sitting on his front porch. We could hear some dogs barking in the distance, which were getting closer and closer to us. Before long, there was this hairy, man-like thing running across the lawns of the houses across the street from us with about 5 or 6 dogs chasing it. No shit. Weird. It appeared to be about 7 or 8 feet tall and was covered in hair from top to bottom. It was running very fast on 2 legs with its arms kind of stiff down to its sides. it didn't fit the normal description of a Bigfoot, as it was kind of slender looking, maybe juvenile. And that was on the outskirts of Bellingham, where there was a lot of woods around at the time. The occurrence was 4 years later. The second occurrence was 4 years later, when my brother and I were together on a deer hunting trip up the North Fork of the Nooksack River. This area, incidentally, is known for some sightings. My brother and I met up in some green timber. It was snowing pretty heavy at the time, with big, heavy, wet flakes which were accumulating at a fairly rapid pace around on the ground. We came up on some tracks that looked like human barefoot tracks, but they were about 15 to 17 inches long. Like I said, it was snowing pretty good at the time, and there was no snow in the tracks, so this thing was there just ahead of us. The snow was heavy and wet, so the tracks were as perfect as they could be. We could clearly make out each toe, ball of the foot, heel, etc. But unfortunately, it was way before everyone carried cell phones, so no pics. We followed the tracks for a couple hundred yards into some heavier brush and decided that we should turn around and head back to the pickup, as it was getting to be dusk. Feel free to share. Maybe through you, somebody will believe me. Not that I really care that much. I know what I saw. And hey, maybe instead of, quote, honesty, end quote, you could call your new podcast, I Know What I Saw. Or not. Regards, Jim Suggs. Jim, you found your people. It's okay to share here, and you're amongst others. Many, many others have seen the same thing. Many. And who gives a shit what anybody thinks, right? Who cares? I think after I do this, I'm going to go farther down the valley. I'm at the end of an old deactivated spur road. I'm looking up at timber line up there. I want to see these dirt banks along the road, see if there's any kind of sign of deer or whatever running around here, but it's pretty bleak. Pretty bleak. This is titled, You'll Want to Hear This. You're right, I will. I do. Hello, Steve. My name is 21 years old and I live in Ketchikan, Alaska. I was born and raised here. I've lived here all my life and have no intention of leaving. I don't blame you, man. Alaska is frickin' awesome. Anyway, I've been hunting and fishing since as long as I can remember. I currently commercial fish and weld for a living. Just giving you some background on myself so you don't think I'm just another dipshit trying to get some attention, because I'm not. I just want to share a story with you about something that happened to me a few years ago. I don't think you're a dipshit, my man. Share away. I've been a blacktail hunting machine like yourself for the past 7 or 8 years. I get no better enjoyment than hiking the Alpine and killing a monster buck. But anyway, about 4 years ago, me and a friend of mine went on a mid-September deer hunt over on Prince of Wales Island. We were hunting Lancaster Harbor, which is located in Chomley Sound. I've hunted this place many times before and never had anything strange happen, even though I had heard stories of these beings living in those hills. The area we were hunting is just an old secluded logging road system like many others in the southeast. It doesn't hook into any other roads. There's a barge landing and that's it. I'm sure you've been on many like it. When we arrived, there was currently nobody else in the entire sound, and certainly nobody else hunting these roads that we were on. So we arrived that afternoon and unloaded the bikes from the troller that we were on and headed for the beach. We rode up to the top of the mountain where there was some good clear cuts to glass. And when we got there, my partner and I split up and went about 20 yards from each other. And he started blowing his deer call to see if anything might stand up, even though it was a little early in the season. And keep in mind, where we are standing, we can see all the way to the water and pretty much the entire sound. About 3 minutes after he blew his call, we seen these two does about 100 yards away, but they just didn't look right. They looked uneasy, like something was bothering them. But we were too far away to matter to them. And right about the time we spotted them, we started hearing these extremely loud bang, bang, bang of what of what sounded like giant rocks being smashed together roughly 150 to 200 yards below us in the timber. This went on for 3 or 4 minutes and was super loud and strange. The only thing I can compare it to is rocks being smashed by an excavator in a rock pit. But at the time, neither me nor my partner had ever had any weird experiences in the woods, and he'd been hunting this area for over 25 years. So we just kind of penciled it up as whatever in our heads and tried to move on with our hunt that afternoon. On our way back down the mountain, we were riding through a flat muskegee area when we came across a pile of rocks, stacked. The largest on the bottom, tapering to the smallest on the top, approximately 2.5 to 3 feet tall. We just rode through this area an hour or two before and did not see these rocks on the side of the road. And trust me, there's no way we would have missed them. When we stopped and took a look at this pile of rocks, we immediately got a giant whiff of something foul. The smell was almost unbearable, like a dead carcass was near, but we knew there was nothing because there were no birds or predators anywhere around us. At this point, we knew something was up, and the Sasquatch thoughts started running through our heads. After a bit of contemplation on the rocks and smell, we continued on and rode about 15 minutes west towards a different clear-cut system. About 3/4 of the way there, we stopped in an area with large old growth on both sides of the road and had a quick snack. We were sitting there bullshitting when all of a sudden we started hearing this jingle, jingle, jingle. Basically, it sounded like someone was standing in the thick of the woods, maybe 15 to 20 yards away, shaking what sounded like a little doggy collar. It was a very unusual sound, and to hear it in the middle of nowhere made us very uneasy. No doubt. This went on for maybe a minute or two before it stopped. I grabbed my gun and stepped down in the ditch to go take a look in the woods, and heard it faintly one more time, and then it went away. When I walked back up to my bike, we both got another whiff of this unmistakable stink that we could not pinpoint what it was or where it was coming from. Keep in mind, we rode 15 minutes at least 20 miles per hour. There's no way that the smell that we smelled earlier was traveling all the way to where we were now. So this is where things get really weird and a little freaky. That evening, we returned to the boat. We were sitting around talking and eating dinner. We were anchored about 100 yards from the beach, where our bikes were sitting. I stepped outside to grab a water, and when all of a sudden this overwhelmingly loud scream started echoing through the bay. This scream made the hair on the back of our neck stand straight up. I've been charged by brown bears, by bull moose, and been in various other stressful situations in the wilderness, but I've never been so uneasy and uncomfortable than when me and my partner started hearing these screams. The only way I can describe this scream was it sounded like something out of a horror movie, almost like someone being gutted alive, or a woman being strangled to death. Sorry for the graphic mental image, but I've never heard anything more horrifying in my life. Even now, writing this down is making me uncomfortable just thinking about the sound. This went on for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, off and on for 5 or 10 seconds at a time. So we sat there shitting our pants, so dumbfounded as to what we were hearing that neither one of us even thought to try and record it on our phones. Neither one of us slept that night. The next morning we got our bikes and got the F out of there. I've never been back since. A year later, I seen something back in a different area located in Ketchikan. I was hiking up a logging road in the fog. The fog lifted for just a split second, and I could see across the valley where another clear cut had been shaved into the mountainside. I glanced over and seen this giant black thing, maybe 250 yards away, standing straight up on a stump. At first, with the blind eye, I immediately thought, shit, that's a big-ass black bear. And why is it standing straight up? I reached down, pulled my binoculars, located on my chest mount. I reached down and pulled up my binoculars, located on a chest mount. What I seen then is forever burned into my head. Standing straight up like a human on a stump was this 7 to 8 foot jet black thing with a slightly lighter colored face, and it was staring right at me. And there was no mistake as to what this thing was. I knew immediately what I'd seen. It only gave me maybe 3 or 4 seconds to look at it before it jumped off the stump and dove into a patch of huckleberry bush. I sat there for at least half an hour waiting for it to reappear, and it never did. It was out in the middle of a clear cut, so trust me, if it was a bear, I would have seen it moving around one way or another after standing there that long looking for it. Once I knew I wasn't going to be able to see it again, I hightailed it back out of there. I felt scared and uneasy the whole way out. I ran into 2 different bucks that I would have killed any other day, but that day I wanted nothing more than just to get the F out of there. I went home, and have since then hunted that same spot many other times and have never seen anything weird there. I wish I would have never seen or heard any of these things, and I always thought I was kind of crazy for even thinking about them until I started watching your videos. Anyway, that's what happened. I don't give a flying fuck what anybody thinks about it, because I know what I've seen. I just thought I'd share the stories with you. Anyway, thanks for reading. You can share this story in your videos if you want. Just don't use my name. If not, it's all good either way. I just wanted to share the encounter with someone who actually taken it into consideration. Thanks sincerely. Okay, I hope I didn't start off with your name, did I? Damn it, you said your name in the beginning. I gotta stop the video. Oh, and put a note on there verbally. Check his name at the beginning of the story.